everybody, it is Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember that you guys should become patrons over on Patreon if you guys want to support us. So
can I tell you the first time Ozpin betrayed me?
Okay.
For it was not in the show proper. It was in a fan fiction.
Okay.
Called The Winds of War. It was one of the first. I think they stopped uploading it, which is what happens. Like how they're just walking around the characters in whiteness in this episode.
The white space.
That's what I imagine happens when fan fictions just drop out of nowhere. I say this knowing full well that you had multiple fan fictions you've never finished.
I deleted them.
You've deleted them. I always hated when that happened, even worse. Oh, the heartbreak.
But now nobody new can be disappointed.
Well, I suppose that's a bit availability. But yeah, so that was the big twist in, I guess, spoiler alert for a relatively unknown fan fiction, or a very obscure fan fiction. That's also very long. It was good, though. It was gay, like they all are. But this one had a big twist of like, oh, but the real, like, the person who's benefiting most from the war is Ozpin. He's the one pulling the strings from on high. And that was the first time I thought, yeah, Ozpin's kind of a sketchy bitch, because he's a man in power, and although some men in power, or just people in power in general, want good things and try to do the best job and are honorable, I don't think maybe Ozpin's one of them. I'm
gonna say I see both sides. So what I think that we're sort of getting at here is that Ozpin did things in his past that he regrets. And if Team RWBY sees them, they won't have faith in him anymore. But he's trying to be a better person and maybe change. And that's why he's hiding so much from them. Because people end up betraying him when they find out maybe the truth, right? And so he doesn't want them to know, because you're judged on your past actions, and a lot of the time people can't see your growth. Does that make sense?
You see a lot of that, especially with, like, the call-out culture.
I was just gonna say that, so
I mean, some of it I think is genuinely very good for people who have shown no shame or, like, no personal growth.
Yeah.
To those people, yeah, I can understand that you probably need it.
So I wanted to talk about that because a couple, I don't remember, but do you guys know who Brother Nature is? He's the guy that talks to the deer.
Yes.
So somebody called him out because he made some edgy tweets when he was like 12 years old, and everybody was
he said, like,
oh,
Heil Hitler or some shit.
Oh, Brother Nature is canceled. But, like, he was 12, right? Like, how are you gonna
like,
say,
you could also
you know
make the
argument,
because you could also make the argument, like, I wasn't doing that. Yeah, I wasn't putting it on the internet, but goddamn, have we all said shit?
We've said some sketchy things before, you know what I mean? And just because they weren't online doesn't mean that you're, like, some angel, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're like, oh, well, I knew better when I was 12, good for you, but everyone's different, right?
The reason why we were better off is that our crazy shit wasn't on Twitter.
Yeah.
The horrific things I've said and done in my past.
I feel like Ozpin, like, if you live for 1,000 years, right, or whatever, your first 100 years are your that's when you're 10 years old.
It's all relative.
Isn't that
like his first few thousand was like our first 15.
Exactly. And
it's
so I'm saying
relative.
that when he originally was created, I'm sure that not everything he did was a good idea. He had a teenage year. That's basically what I'm saying. Ozpin had, even though he's been alive forever,
have teenage
right?
Years,
150 years being alive, those are his teenage years, or however long it's been. Right? And so, I understand what he's saying. He doesn't want them to see because did you break this?
No, that was already broken.
Yeah, it was already broken. Then who broke it?
I don't know who broke it, but it was already like
Hunter's like, I play with this all the time, but I'm sure it was already broken.
Hey, listen, it was broken when I picked it up. I probably broke
like Ozpin's foreheart. But yeah, I think that's not kind of the idea, is that, yes, Ozpin's being, like, really shady now, but it's because he did things in his past and he moved on, and I feel like that's why he says, hey, doesn't everybody have a regret, right? He's trying to convey that, yes, he did some bad things, but he regrets it, and he wants to maybe learn from it.
What if...
That's me playing devil's advocate, by the way, is that I'm trying to say, I understand what he's saying. He wants Lionheart to be remembered as a good man, not because of the few mess-ups that he had. And I think Ozpin's the same way. He wants to be remembered as somebody good, but he did make a few mistakes, and maybe he'll actually own up to it, maybe he won't. It kind of depends. But what if what they're seeing, he thinks that he's doing better, but he's not? Does that make sense? Like, he thinks that he's had personal growth and changed as a person, but he actually hasn't. Does that make sense? Because, like, with what you talked about, Hunter, if somebody's shown that they've changed, if somebody's shown that, like, they're not as...
no growth.
Yeah, and so what if Ozpin, like, in his head, he thinks he's the good guy, but he hasn't actually shown any personal growth, and he hasn't actually surpassed what was seen there. He thinks that he's a good person that has some regrets, but what if he's not actually at all? Like, he just thinks in his head that he improved, but he never did,
This is something else I want to bring up, what people often forget, that when... Yeah, take a drink, hon. when people in power will often, because they're given so much
absolute power corrupts absolute.
Yeah, not even absolute power. Barack Obama has killed a lot of people inadvertently, but like he has dropped many bombs on Yemenis neighborhoods and probably killed a lot of innocents. So has George W. Bush and basically every president, including the current one, for all of history, more or less. When you have power, you are asked to do... When you have extreme power, you're asked to do extreme things with that power. Mm-hmm. So it's no doubt that Ozpin has done a lot of extreme shit. A lot of innocence life probably left to him. And like you said, maybe he thinks his actions are justified. But what if now, through RWBY, the kinder soul... Maybe that's why
or not even justified, but he thinks that he's grown and he hasn't at all.
He thinks that he's doing things good.
Good this
really
time. He thinks that he's gotten better and he's just gotten worse.
And maybe that's why he wanted the simpler soul thing. Maybe that was from an earlier conversation. Maybe he thinks... A simple,
more honest soul because he's not honest.
Yes, he's dishonest and he's very complex.
Disheveled, I guess.
So maybe even on a certain level, he knows that he's not, to quote Christopher Nolan... the hero we deserve.
Mm-hmm. And I think, too, we have to keep in mind, the only reason why he kept reincarnating is because Salem got out of hand and betrayed him, and now in the backstory... So Ozpin had to do something to her to make her hate him in the first place. So it seems like that may be the regret that he has, is whatever he did to Salem.
Here's
the thing, what if he did something so morally reprehensible to Salem that there is no personal growth or development that could save it, right? When somebody says something edgy on the internet 10 years ago, that's one thing. But if you actually, like, murdered someone and, like, committed a crime, like, how are you coming back from that? You know what I mean? And so, like, I feel like this is sort of the same thing. Like, what if he's like, I've gotten better past that, like, since then, and Yang is like, how could you? Like, you know, like, this is something that can't be, you can't grow out of this, like, you did X, you made her into a monster, right? Because I'm guessing that Ozpin has something to do with why she's grimified, just like the Wizard of Oz had something to do with why, Elphaba, or the Wicked Witch of the West, was greenified, right? And so... if he, like, made her into a Grimm and made her into a monster, I feel like especially Yang will have a lot of reprehension because Raven says this, you made yourself into a monster for power. She says that to Cinder. But what if Ozpin made, we've talked about, maybe it's his daughter, like, made his daughter into a monster so he could be more powerful and he could try to control the Grimm and then it backfires. Like, all of this storyline where, it wouldn't work anymore. Like, you can't come back from that. And I feel like Weiss and Yang, because of their parental issues or whatever you want to call them, will be the most disgusted by Ozpin's actions, and then followed by Blake, because Blake has seen somebody corrupt. Like, Blake has seen somebody that started out as a good guy turn bad, and all of that stuff. So I think, for the top tier, Weiss is gonna be the most skeptical and the most condemning of Ozpin. Yang may actually be up depending on what his backstory is, but then Blake is also gonna see that, and RWBY's gonna try to stay positive, but after what they see, how can you? And that's why I feel like he didn't want them to see it, because let's say he actually became better, then how is he gonna get that image out of their minds, but say that he didn't, right? So I like both ideas, that he's actually has become a better person, but he just didn't want them tainted by his past, or he never became a better person and he didn't want them to see, like, that sort of darkness that he used to have. Like, it's all very interesting, and it's all very complex, and I don't know, I just feel so good about these couple episodes. Like, I feel so good about RWBY lately. Anyway, go ahead, you can talk.
They've been really wonderful. I think...
The G Fuel is not gonna help. I feel like that's what made it worse.
I feel suddenly more awake, so me thinking it's doing something good for me. So I don't know exactly, you're taking this scripty thing and you're throwing it away.
I'm gonna get you a toy to play with, because I think that you broke that and you're just not telling me.
I probably did broke it earlier, honestly.
You did break it, yeah.
But not today.
I forgive you, it's okay.
Anyways, I still think she has something to do with the creation of the Grimm. I'm not... So what if the Grimm...
the Grimm was made by the Dark God.
Yes, but I imagine that maybe she, like, they did something together that they thought they could bring, like, peace to the world.
Well, maybe it's a flying monkey idea.
Maybe that's what the dragon is.
They tried to improve the Grimm, improve the Grimm, but they tried to somehow experiment on the Grimm to make them lessened, and then it ended up backfiring horrificaally. Like, maybe originally Grimm were, maybe, I don't want to say more biological, but you know how the dragon makes those Grimm spill out of him? Like, maybe that wasn't something the Dark God did. Maybe that was something they did by accident, right?
That's why she would know that they were there, because they have made more powerful Grimm, or they did
something
by
accident,
to the
they did.
Grimm.
And that would fit in with the Wicked Witch of the West thing of making the flying monkey, making the abomination to work for them.
Because maybe you see Grimm and you think, like, wait, those don't look like the Grimms we knew, because they changed over time with Salem's assistance.
Yeah.
But maybe they do something. I don't know what it is. I think it's centered around Grimm.
I have an idea.
But what it has to be an ongoing, something that Ozpin routinely fails at. It's not just a mistake he made in the past that he can then grow from. It's something that he continues to do. Either by his inaction or his policies. And whatever that is, so it's not just a flawed person that did something flawed in its past, it's no, this person continues to do something that is bad. And I think it'll be involved with Salem, and I think it will have to do something with the Grimm, but I'm not sure.
Here's our idea from a while ago. We said this a while ago for their relationship video and stuff like that, but what if basically he was trying to make it so Salem would be able to control the Grimm so they could get them away from people, if that makes sense. Like, hey, if you had the power to control Grimm, we could keep them away but still have them exist. But then that backfires when Salem feels betrayed by Ozpin, and then she starts using them to bring him down, or whatever. And so I think that that's sort of where I'm leaning, is that they were like, oh, yes, we can work together, we can do good together, we can control the Grimm, and then we can keep them away from the human population and try to protect people. And then that just goes horribly, horribly wrong. That's my favorite theory, and that's the one that I personally like. So that is the one that I think... And Ozpin would routinely fail at that. He keeps trying to make people safe and go back to, hey, you know, like, if we could only do this about the Grimm, if we could only do that. What if
he has some, like, ongoing obsession with the Grimm? It's like, no, I need to get back to do this thing. That they don't know what the thing is, and maybe the thing is perpetuating the war.
And I think that
maybe it's always far too gone, and maybe he hasn't really changed.
That may even connect to Silver Eyes, because, hey... let's get these silver-eyed warriors, right? Like, say with Salem, if she has magic. Like, let's make these silver-eyed warriors to keep the Grimm at bay. And then it just evolves from there. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then he's like, I think the only way that we can make the Grimm listen to you, Salem, is if we turn you into part Grimm. And she's like, okay, like, if it'll help people, and then it doesn't, and it doesn't work, and now she's a monster, and all of this sort of snowballs into disaster and all that. So I think that's kind of where I'm leaning with all that, is that he makes her into a monster for the sake of originally trying to help people, and that's what he keeps trying to do. He keeps trying to protect people. Oh, I'll build the school so we can, you know, train huntsmen and protect the world. Like, he keeps going back to this idea that he has to be the world's protector, but that's what got him into the mess in the first place. Like, if he just let the natural order take its course, you know, how the Dark God and the brothers and all that wanted, like, the Grimm were sort of meant to combat humanity, but Ozpin kept trying to mess with the natural order of things, like how things were supposed to work, you know, and every time he makes something new, like Silver Eyes, or something powerful to counteract the natural order, that's when things get worse and worse, and that's why the gods punished him. Like, hey, you're trying to play God here. Like, we made a sort of this dichotomy, or this contrast, this parallel of humans versus Grimm, light versus darkness. You're upsetting the balance of the universe,
Because think about it. Think about all the stuff he's lied about. Maybe he lied about the maidens, too.
What do you mean?
Because when you think, like, all we know about the maidens are what he told us about the maidens.
Yeah, that's true.
And he lied about the Remick, so maybe he lied about the maidens.
He's just lying about everything. Like,
so what if the maidens are also involved with...
With Grimm killing?
With the Grimm and the current state of the world and its catastrophe and Salem. Listen,
because Ozpin keeps trying to make things. He keeps trying to use his magic to make people.
Yes,
does that make sense?
I feel like I should have a crazy conspiracy board next to your Patreon board where it should be like, alright, Salem's the mill, right? And we have red lines going out here to Ozpin. Then we have red lines going down to the maidens, to the relics. And then we have Grimm over here.
When we get our new office, I'll have the whiteboard so you can draw something. But I understand what you're saying. I feel like that's the thing, right? Ozpin, like, oh, I'll make Silver Eyes to protect the world. I'll make this to protect the world. But actually, that's not what the gods wanted him to use his magic for. The gods wanted him to preserve the balance. And this is not balanced, right? Because the Grimm are just supposed to fight against regular humans.
What if Grimm weren't... Because think about it. How does Crow know all that stuff about the brothers?
Well, Ozpin
from
told
Ozpin,
him, right? So it's
who has lied about stuff. So you really have to consider...
What if there is no Dark God, and the Dark God didn't make the Grimm, but Ozpin made it in an accident?
What
like,
if...
you know how in Epic Mickey spills the ink and it ruins, like, the fairy tale book or whatever, and it creates the ink blobs? Like, what if he was lying about that, and there was just sort of...
Maybe, what if, like, people have always talked about how RWBY doesn't have a main theme? What if its main theme is that... is about, I don't know, maybe not. Well,
I think each volume has a theme, and the theme for this volume is you have to understand the past to understand the present, and all
so
that.
Maybe we're understanding
right. So yeah, are you excited? I'm so happy. I can't wait until next week.
People have talked about how like RWBY has gone hill, but honestly,
this is a big improvement. This is a really big improvement.
Even like people didn't like 5 and 4. I'm just like, I just feel like I've been getting quintessentially more and more excited.
This is a lot better, I think.
Yeah. So so at the end of the day. It's a line between Ozpin and Salem, and under Ozpin we have
the maidens and the silver eyes and the weird Grimm and all that.
And under Salem we have how she turned into a Grimm, and maybe the Grimm dragons, because they knew about that. How did they know they were in the mountain? Maybe she put them there, and and the dark gods and all of these information that we were told from Ozpin. Maybe we can't trust it.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was the annoying part of the World of Remnants is if they were narrated by Salem and Ozpin, they have a bias, right? And so that's why I think that the World of Remnants are first discontinued and second that they're basically deleted. Like you can't find them anymore. Like they're
really?
People are trying to retcon that. Yeah, like they're difficult to find. They still exist on the RT site, I think, but some of them have vanished or they're out of the playlist. Like I think they're trying to hide them a little bit because I don't think it's a good idea because you have narrators that are clearly biased, and you have this with Crow. Like, Crow draws a little, like, mustache on all the Schnees or whatever, because he doesn't like them, right, in the Schnee Dust Company video. So I think
that would be really good if they said, like, a line from one of the early Remnants when they're like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all lies.
I know.
All stories we've told ourselves. Because that could be a big overarching metaphor.
Well, I think that's the thing. If you're telling somebody something, you're telling it from your own perspective and your own bias. So when Ozpin tells a story to Crow, Crow then interprets it a certain way and re-explains it. But now we have sort of a unbiased narrator as the genie because she's just knowledge. Like she's just spitting out the truth.
She will tell you and we have one question left, so maybe
So what else is Ozpin hiding?
So maybe that because Crow's also seeing it too. So maybe Crow could be like,
Crow was like, I stuck with you and everybody else on my team left, and you lied to me. Like I really want to see that change in Crow because you weren't here. But Al and I did a video about why Crow is so loyal to Ozpin. That Ozpin changes. Like I remember because you were upset with me he escaped from the bandits, like all of that sort of stuff. He helped him get a better life, but now it's like his mentor, like maybe his father figure. We don't really know a lot about the bandits to say that, but it was sort of this idea of like, this person meant so much to Crow and he betrayed Crow in the end. Like that's fucking wild, but yeah.
It just almost feels like it'd be 2 full separate episodes, but Ozpin is a shady bitch. I can't even breathe. I'm so excited for the next episode.
I'm so excited, but yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm more excited than I've been. Like I remember, like the first time I saw it in Volume 3. More excited than like the first time I got to see it as it moved on. I guess that was Volume 3. Or first time I did it with you in Volume 4.
Anyway, we will see you guys later.
I'm only slightly less excited I was when I finally learned that I was right that Ilya was gay. Only slightly less.
I hope that you guys enjoyed. And
when I finally get to voice Neo, like I know I should, I'll be even more excited.
Anyway, we'll see you guys later. Bye! Thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, I encourage you guys to become patrons over on Patreon. Patrons get a lot of different rewards ranging from early access to all of our videos up to a week in advance. $10 patrons actually get them sometimes weeks in advance or even like a month in advance. It depends on how much we record for. But also, all of our patrons get access to our Discord server, which is really cool if you guys want to talk to us in a more direct way. I obviously hang out a lot there. And there are just a bunch of other rewards that you guys can check out on Patreon. You guys can sort of see for yourself, and if you want to support us, you want to help us out, you want to see more videos like this and want to help keep us going, you guys would really help us out. So yeah, I hope that you guys will consider becoming patrons, and I hope that all of our patrons enjoy seeing their lovely names at the end of the screen, because we couldn't do this without them. So I will see you guys later. Bye.